What do you think caused this shift in how the U.S. and the Pentagon was viewing Taiwan?
I think there were a number of different things that they probably saw that worried them. One was they saw what had happened in Xinjiang, right? They saw what had happened in Hong Kong. They had seen increasingly aggressive Chinese military and political behavior in the South China Sea, and of course, all around Taiwan. Since January of 2020, there's been a remarkable ramp up of Chinese bomber flights around Taiwan and military activities on the water, under the water, even in the electromagnetic domain, jamming, cyber attacks. It's been really remarkable, the uptick that's occurred. It's also remarkable to see the shift in Chinese Communist Party propaganda. The Global Times in particular, who I know you guys are big fans of, so am I. They're great.
It's my favorite.
Those guys have been really outspoken and in some cases really vicious with their propaganda. They're constantly signaling that China's getting ready to attack Taiwan. At the same time, there's also been a lot of things that have gone on across from Taiwan that the PLA has done. So, for example, the PLA is now constructing large new helicopter bases across from Taiwan, large new drone bases across from Taiwan. They have completely restructured their military over the past 5 years in a way that indicates that they consider the future invasion of Taiwan their number one priority. So they've actually, of course, the PLA is based on Marxist-Leninist organizational structuring, and so everything's in priority order. Previously, before the 2016 PLA reforms, the group armies that were to the north, that faced the former Soviet Union, had pride of place, right, in their protocol order. Those were the most important armies. They got the best equipment, they got the best funding, they got the best attention, they got the best seats at the banquets in Beijing, all of that. That has all changed now. Taiwan is clearly the focus. And by way of extension, the United States is clearly the focus because the PLA is not just preparing to invade Taiwan, they're also preparing to fight and to defeat the United States because they assume that we will come to Taiwan's aid in this scenario. There have also been things like the new amphibious units being stood up, new brigades. They've gone from divisions to brigades. That seems like a really wonky, silly thing that doesn't really matter that much. It actually does for a military. It's a really big deal to do something like that. A brigade is a very large structure. It's very unwieldy. It suggests that you're preparing to fight wars close to home on your borders. You're not projecting power. The new brigade structures that they push through, and they've also gotten rid of regiments as well. They're going to battalions. In the PLA, a division might have about 10,000 guys. A brigade might be closer to 5,000, and your battalions might be anywhere from 500 to 1,500. They're much smaller units, and they're able to operate more independently, which is exactly what you would want in a Taiwan invasion campaign. They've also invested very heavily in airborne forces, air assaults. So airborne is parachute attacks. Air assaults are attacks, moving troops with helicopters to attack. They've begun to invest in the mass production of Z-20 helicopters. That's the PLA's version of the Black Hawk. They stole the technology from us. If they have, currently they have, they number in the dozens, but they plan to build thousands of them. And once they do, that makes the threat of an invasion much more credible. What they've also done in recent years is military civil fusion. This is one of Xi Jinping's signature strategies. That is also all about preparing the fleets in China for a potential invasion of the civilian fleets, ostensibly civilian fleets, for a potential invasion of Taiwan as well.
Well, speaking of the civil-military fusion, this is an aspect of the Chinese Communist Party, I guess you call it psychological warfare, that just baffles me. How they put up this front of having so-called private Chinese companies that are then able to do business with Taiwan and the U.S. in fields like semiconductors, very critical infrastructure to what could become weapons of war for the Chinese Communist Party. But like even Taiwan is doing business with like private Chinese companies on these critical national security technologies that obviously, because of civil military fusion, the Chinese Communist Party can directly get its hands on.
Yeah, that's right. It's actually pretty ingenious on the part of the Chinese Communist Party. The Soviet Union used to do the same thing. It was just that back during the Cold War, nobody trusted the Soviet Union because they knew that, KGB officers were everywhere. It's very odd the level of trust people have put in the PRC, and that they somehow assume that companies in China are, independent legal entities the way they are in the West. That's completely false. And all you have to do is read the 2017 National Defense Transportation Law. All you have to do is read the state security or I believe it's called the State Intelligence Law that also came out that year. Those clearly state that all companies answer first and foremost to the Chinese Communist Party, to the military, and to the security services, that they have to put back doors. If you're a technology company in China, you have to put back doors in all of your products that allow the military to use them in the event of a crisis. And you have to put back doors in them that allow the security services like MSS to use them in peacetime. And so the idea that, and this is also a problem for the United States, as it is for Taiwan, that now we have critical national infrastructure, like some of our port facilities and some of our subway cars and other, critical life. This is life or death stuff, right? And you're putting it in the hands of the Chinese intelligence services and the military, because you think you're actually dealing with real civilian companies that can say no to the Chinese Communist Party when push comes to shove. And of course they can. These are just commercial arms of the party, and by way of extension, the military. Taiwan's an interesting example, right? Because if you look at the port of Kaohsiung, which is one of the places that PLA would very much like to seize in the event of an invasion, you actually have the most high-tech container terminal there being invested in by and partially owned by 3 Chinese state-owned enterprises. And you have a lot of the gantry cranes, the ship-to-shore cranes that unload all of the giant containers. That's all an automated system run by central control centers. So you'd have one dude at a computer operating 6 or 7 different unloading operations. That's all run by a company called ZPMC. It's in Shanghai and state-owned. It's owned. Its parent company is China Communications Construction Corporation, which was blacklisted by the Pentagon last year because it's so close to the PLA. ZPMC actually last year was conducting military exercises with it owns port facilities, but also ships. It was conducting exercises with the PLA, which simulated a potential invasion of Taiwan at the same moment that it has infrastructure in Taiwan. It's not just Kaohsiung, it's also the port of Taipei. I think they have one crane in Geelong. At the same moment, they're operating some of that. So it's a really remarkable situation.
That's just insane.
It's not logical, that's for sure.
Has this come up in Taiwan? Like, is this something that's like come up in the government, or do people know about this?
To my knowledge, they do not.
Well, you heard it first on China Unscripted. I hope Tsai Ing-wen is watching this.
Maybe her cats are.
Cats love us.